y'all, it's Laura, and I am back with a traveler's notebook layout. I haven't done one of these on the channel for a while, so I decided to go ahead and do a quick one, mostly because I wanted to show you guys this picture. I came across this picture while going through my photo files, and I just had to scrapbook it right away. It is just so perfectly encapsulating of my personality at this age. So this is me at roughly 16, and I'm getting ready to go to my very first formal dance as a high schooler. So we had a formal dance in middle school, but it wasn't quite the same as what you do in high school. It was just kind of a dance that everybody got more dressed up for. Whereas this in particular was homecoming, and it was a whole thing. And so I went to the store, bought myself a dress, a really nice floor-length dress to wear, and did my hair as nicely as I could, and put a little bit of makeup on, which I don't wear a lot of makeup. Even in high school, I didn't wear a lot of makeup. Now, I don't wear makeup at all, but even as a high schooler, I did not really wear a lot of makeup. And so this was one of those rare moments where not only am I dressed really glamorously, but I also had a lot of makeup on. And it was an interesting feeling. I do vaguely remember what it felt like to feel all dressed up. I was a little nervous, but I really, really loved the fact that my mother insisted that I take a picture of just by myself and not with my date, because as it turns out, my date is my now ex-husband. So that's a bit awkward when you're going to scrap pictures of yourself growing up and you really just want to tell the story of you and yourself and how you've changed over time and things. And you don't necessarily want to include your exes in stories like that. There's a time and a place to scrap those photos, of course, if you choose to. But for me, I really wanted this to be simply about my experience heading into a real formal dance for the first time, and how nervous I was, but also extremely excited. And I have another photo from my senior prom. So that was the very last formal dance that I went to as a high schooler. And I'm going to juxtapose those two photos with each other in the Traveler's Notebook album that I'm doing, and you can see a remarkable difference in my personality, in the energy that I'm sharing in those particular two photos. And I thought that was just brilliant. So I'm really excited to scrap the second one as well and just have both of these sitting in the album together, kind of showing before and after, if you will. Now, I've always really enjoyed dances, and so these formal dances were a little bit trickier. You know, you have to learn to dance in a dress. You have to learn to carry yourself in a formal dress. It's definitely much different than carrying yourself wearing jeans, which is pretty much what I lived in most of the time. And that was just a big experience for me. And I think all kids need to experience that in the later high school years, just going to a dance and kind of learning to carry yourself a little bit differently in a formal environment. I just think it's an interesting learning experience and something that I'm really glad that I participated in. Now, I am using the December Freckled Fawn kit, which had all of these fantastic washi ephemera pieces. Now, if you're familiar with me, you know I'm a bit of an ephemera junkie, big fan of ephemera, and most of the Freckled Fawn kits don't really have ephemera in them. They usually have wood veneer, washi, journaling cards, paper, and puffy stickers and alphas, but not usually ephemera. And I was really excited to find washi ephemera in the December kit. Now, this is their black and white kit that they do every year, and I don't know why, but this kit always appeals to me every single year. I'm not sure what it is about the black and white, if it's just the stark contrast, the open-endedness of adding your own color. I'm not really sure, but I just really love this kit every single year. And this one, without fail, my absolute favorite. Love it. And it was perfect for scrapping a formal photo. So I decided to go ahead and play around with the ephemera. I've gone ahead and used one of the doilies kind of as a peekaboo out of the journaling spot on the left, and I'm going to add my title there. And then on the journaling card I added below my photo, that's where most of my journaling is going to go. I am going to add another label as well because I had a lot of things I wanted to say about this photo. Not only talking about the fact that this is homecoming and what homecoming is, the first dance of the year usually, and centered around the football game as well. And if you're not from the United States, you may not be familiar with that concept, but I know that here in the US it's very common. It's usually the first big football game of the year and big sports game of the school year, and then they have a dance associated with it. So it's kind of like just celebrating the beginning of the school year and just getting everybody comfortable in the new grades that they're in. But I remember my very first homecoming dance. I'm fairly certain that this is junior year. We had some rules with the school on what dances you could go to based on your grade level. And I'm pretty sure you couldn't go to the homecoming dance until you were in 10th grade, but I'm not 100% sure. But this one was in 2000, and I know it was the first formal that I went to. So go ahead and mark this as homecoming. My title is simply going to be Homecoming Dance. Unfortunately, homecoming is a very long word, so I did have to break it up. But I just want to talk briefly in my journaling about how much I enjoyed dances. I had a blast at them. My friends and I would always have such a good time dancing. I still like dancing, and music has always been a really important part of my life. And it's just a great way to connect with people, especially if you're not good with small talk and conversation. Going to something like a dance where you can just enjoy yourself, just laugh and have a good time with your friends, I just think is such a cool way to communicate with people. Now I have left in the taping on this one because I had a couple of requests to do that. I just use simple double-sided tape from Amazon, nothing fancy. It gets the job done, and because these are going into page protectors, which you can get from Freckled Fawn with their album. So you have little page protectors to slide these into. I don't have to worry about making it fingerprint safe or worrying about pieces falling off. So I just use double-sided tape and it should be fine. Again, nothing fancy is really necessary. I pulled in these little puffy hearts. I think these types of things are one of my favorite parts of the kits. If there's washi, that is ephemera, that certainly wins. But these little puffy bits, love them, little scattering pieces, because I always finish off my layouts with scattering and splattering. Now in this case, I just used the little tiny puffy hearts as my scattering, and we'll come in with some Nuvo drops in just a minute for some controlled splatter only. Mostly because I'm using pattern paper backgrounds and there really isn't a lot of extra white space that I need to fill in or feel the need to fill in with splattering. That's the normal reason I use splattering when I finish it off, is I feel like there's white space I need to kind of blend out into, but in a tiny layout like this, you really don't need that. So I am adding again this second label. So the first label on here on the left came on the card. And so this is just an additional label where I'm going to be talking about the fact that I bought my own dress and that I bought my own ticket and nobody else bought it for me. I did it all on my own, and partially with allowance and partially with I was working as an intern at my mother's company that she works for at the time. So this was a really fun project. I'm glad to have this photo scrapped, and I'm really excited to do the next photo as well, showing my last formal dance. Now, quick question for all of you. Do you have your childhood photos scrapbooked? Now, this is something that I find you either do or you don't. Most people don't have some of them. A lot of people either do or they just completely have not done it. And I just find that fascinating. So I have determined to do mine in the Traveler's Notebook size simply because it's going to be accessible to me long term. I'm thinking for the rest of my life, I can hold on to these albums and it won't be a space issue for me. So I'm going ahead and doing some outlining, used my Nuvo drops, and this is done. So until next time, bye y'all.